Hello and welcome to Miss Checkpoints, the video game book club podcast. Today we're doing another bonus episode for 2021. I'm your host Marcus, and joining me today as always are the homies. First up we have Dante.
How's it going, guys?
Pretty good. And last but not least we have the homie Trevor.
Tell me more, tell me more.
This was Trevor's choice, so I'll let him introduce the game and he can handle the intro as well.
Okay, so for our bonus game this month, we decided to play Gris. And Gris is a platform adventure game by Spanish developer Nomada Studio and published by Devolver Digital. And Devolver is probably familiar because we've played a few other games that were published by Devolver for the podcast, including Carrion, Katana Zero, Luftrausers, Hotline Miami, and I believe all of us on this episode have played Fall Guys together.
Yep.
So the intro will probably be a little short. I think I did a little bit more research on the people who created the studio, since this is the only game they've released. But Gris was developed by Nomada Studio, a Barcelona-based company founded in 2016, which was formed after a chance meeting between two Ubisoft employees, Roger Mendoza and Adrian Cuevas, and artist Conrad Rosette. I don't know if it's Rosette or Rose. Marcus, you know if the T is silent?
How's it spelled? Can you just type it in?
Roset.
I would say Rosette.
So like I said, the studio doesn't have a lot of history. They were formed in 2016. However, the three main founders, Roger Mendoza, as well as Adrian Cuevas, worked at Ubisoft Montreal as well as Ubisoft Barcelona. Roger Mendoza worked on Assassin's Creed 3, Assassin's Creed 4, Black Flag, Rainbow Six Siege, and Assassin's Creed Syndicate Jack the Ripper, which was the DLC. And then Adrian Cuevas worked on Far Cry 3, Buzz the Ultimate Music Quiz, Hitman 2016, which we played for the podcast, and Rainbow Six Siege as well. And I believe it was after Rainbow Six Siege where they made their exit from Ubisoft Barcelona, because that came out in 2016, and then they formed the studio in 2016. And then Rosette, upon meeting the other two developers, mentioned that he was interested in working on video games, and at the time the two were interested in creating an independent game but lacked the artistic skills, so the three decided to form Nomada Studios. And Conrad Rosette is, like I said, he's an artist, and he has a website. I looked at his portfolio, and his art style, of course, is, all very similar to Gris. A lot of his works are focused on the female figure and have a very watercolor look to them, with a lot of line art. So just more on development, intending the game to be a mix of Journey and Ori and the Blind Forest. The game was designed with accessibility in mind. As such, there are no fail states, a decision that proved to be challenging. Mendoza has described their approach as, if there's a puzzle, you can probably finish it at the second or third try. When the puzzle is more complicated, we give the players options. Partway through development, the team consulted with a psychologist about the game's narrative themes of grief and depression, resulting in gameplay decisions to echo the turmoil of the main character. An example of this is how at the beginning of the game, the player is unable to jump, which helps reinforce the notion that something is wrong with this girl. The art style created some unique problems for the developers, since the game becomes more lively as players progress. Designing the early areas in an appealing way proved challenging. The team eventually solved this problem by taking inspiration from Iwagumi-style aquariums. And I looked these up too. These are actually pretty cool. They're like, I I think they were called like aquascapes or something like that, but they're basically like landscapes that are made for like terrariums or aquariums.
Okay.
But another challenging issue was readability, which resulted in several level design and camera angle tweaks during development. Initially, the main character's dress was going to change as more colors became unlocked. However, this eventually proved impractical due partly to the camera angles. And the game's title refers to the name of the protagonist as well as the Spanish word for the color gray. And that is it for the development. Like I said, this is their only game, so I didn't see any projects that they're currently working on. And this was developed or released in, was it 2016 or 2017?
I thought it was earlier than that. I feel like this is like a 2019.
That's right. They formed the studio in 2016. Sorry. So it was released on, let me see, because I don't think I listed the platforms. Microsoft Windows and Nintendo Switch December 2018. And then also iOS 2019 and PS4 in 2019 as well. And Android in 2020. So it's on quite a few platforms.
Get that money.
And I chose this game because
It's a Trevor game.
Yeah, I was gonna say I like indie games like this that focus a lot of attention on one specific thing and try to do it very well. And of course, this game received a lot of positive reception for its art style, which has a very painterly watercolor look to it. It actually reminded me of, ironically, because two of the developers worked at Ubisoft, but it reminded me of the Ubi framework system that I've been trying to get us to play. Child of Light as well as Valiant Hearts. Both of those games use it, but Ubi framework is basically, it looks like the developers take the art directly off the page and put it into the game, and that's exactly how this game looks as well. So that was another reason why I wanted to play this game.
Is it called UB Frameworks or UB Art? I thought it was UB Art.
UB Art Framework, because I think they used they made a few Rayman games with it as well. But yeah, that is it for the intro. And like Marcus said, it's a Trevor game. It touches on a few things such as like grief and depression and all that. So I thought it'd be something nice for us to talk about.
Hell yeah, we love grief. Okay, so what did you end up playing it on?
I played it on PC. This is actually my second playthrough. I played it back in 2019. Or actually, no, 2020, because it was basically almost exactly a year ago from the original time I played it. So I played it on PC again.
Sure. And what about you, Dante?
I played it on PC.
Okay. And I did as well. So yeah, I'm guessing all you guys played with gamepad.
Yep. I was very tempted to get it on Switch just to replay it, but it didn't go on sale, so.
I like it, but I don't love it. Okay. So this is a Trevor game. Can you explain, I guess, what we mean when we say that?
So I have an affinity for indie games. I've played a lot of them. Usually when I play one indie game, I try to look up, what are some similar games to it. So I guess that's become like a trope for me with these types of games. But usually they're kind of simplistic in nature, a little narrative driven, and usually touch on like certain topics, like depression or what's another bonus game that we played?
I think Luca was another one of yours, and Forgotten
Brothers,
Man,
A Tale of Two
Brothers.
Sons.
Dealing with loss and
Forgotten
war.
Anne, which is Marcus's grief.
I mean, even games like Papa EO, I think.
That and Celeste were games that
would be like something I would play, like even if it was outside of the podcast.
I think like when I say that, it's definitely like has some type of subject matter that it's trying to tackle. Another one I just thought of was Gora and the Gardens Between. But like their adventure platformer games typically is what Trevor goes to, and there's usually some sort of puzzle element. And like this game and usually they have like a unique like art style where it's not like the run of the mill. Like it usually has something like, I mean, just kind of naming some of the games we were talking about. Gora has a very unique look to it, and as far as the influences that it had. When we played your other game, I mean, obviously Azura's Wrath has a look. And Luca definitely had a look. Yeah, so this checks like all the boxes. And I think this game,
I have to disagree.
Wait, what did you say, Dante?
I said I have to disagree.
Okay, what do you disagree with?
The box that it didn't check was this one actually kind of plays well.
Oh,
okay. We're gonna act like we didn't play Shenmue this year.
That was your choice, not mine.
Yeah, I think this one, like, I think the most striking thing for me, like, just right off the bat, was like, I thought this game was gorgeous. Like, it was very, very, very striking, and I just really, really love the watercolor aesthetic that the game had. I really, like, this is definitely one of those games, I think I said this before, I'm going to say it again, like, similar with Sayonara, where it's like, basically, at any point, if you pause the game and could like remove the HUD or whatever, just you would have like a screenshot worthy, to put on your desktop. Like I feel like this game was just all about its environment.
Aesthetics.
It's just the aesthetic and like, and even with the environments too. Like you're traversing across this world and there's a lot of different like terrain. Like you're in a desert in the beginning, and then later on you're in like a forest, kind of like an abstract kind of forest, and then you're like in this underwater like cave, and then you're in this like mirror kind of world where everything is reflected. And I don't know, I couldn't stop looking at this game.
And I think that goes to like the inspiration from the Iwagumi aquariums, because it's like very layered, and to almost where like they basically just created a painting for the background, and every frame where you move, like where you're scrolling from side to side in the game, is like a slice of that. That artwork.
And I liked it too that it wasn't too real. It wasn't realistic in a like, obviously we're playing a video game, but like things in it were abstracted. So like the tops of trees were like blocks, and they had like these mushroom creatures and like things in there was like parallels to like stuff in our world. Like they had apples, they had mushrooms, they had fish. But just like some of the things, it's just like, oh, this tree is basically, it has the stump, but then the top of the tree is like, it forms into a rectangle or like a block. And like, I really dug that. They had a lot of like floating stone structures in the desert world that I thought looked really cool. Included some, I mean, honestly, like that first world was like, they had like levers and like fans and things, so it was almost kind of like
steampunk.
Yeah. And even like the girl, like, you know, like I thought like, oh, this is really weird because you see this girl and like her face, especially I think it's the girl from the cover is of the quote unquote box art, and like its face looks beautiful because, you know, it's like a watercolor, but then you see her and when you're moving her and her arms and legs are just like black lines. And so, like, I think I really just really dug how everything in this game was stylized. I really dug it.
Yeah, it's definitely it gives you a very Ori-esque vibe. If anybody's played Ori and the Blind Forest or Ori and the Will-o-the-Wisp, where everything's hand drawn and just very meticulously animated, and the designs are all like, they're cohesive, but they're also unique in a lot of ways.
And Dante, I think you own this art book as well, but the Final Fantasy art book, I think it's called The Sky.
Yes.
You have that one? This game really reminded me of that book. Just
yeah,
like
I can see that.
the whimsicalness of it. Because there are a lot of instances where the character is falling. And, you know, of course, that's one of the topics that it touches on is like with depression and loss. You know, she's constantly falling through the world. And I mean, it is just like the animation, along with like her dress when she's falling is, you know, it doesn't even seem like a cutscene. It's just like it's very seamless with the gameplay.
Yeah, it seems like it could have totally been like, and I don't mean this in a disparaging way, like a really good commercial interstitial for like some company talking about depression or something in a lot of cases.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The other thing I really like too is, like we kind of, I think Trevor alluded to, the game name Gris is what the Spanish word for gray. And so like one of the things they do in this game is in that first section when you first get control of the character, you're just playing in a black and white world. And as I think Trevor's kind of touched on it, like the game goes through, I believe it's the five stages of grief.
Yep.
I believe. And there's like, they do that by, when you're in a world, it introduces a color. So like the first world is the desert world, and it's red is the color. So what happens is you went from being in a black and white world to like a world that has tones of red in it, and then the game automatically looks and feels different when you're playing in that. And then the next world, the second color, when you're in the forest, it adds green. So then now you're having, you know, you still have the black and white, but then you also have some red and some green coming in. And then, it just keeps building from that. So by the time you're at the end, it's introduced red, green, blue, and yellow. And you basically are playing in a fully realized, like, colorful... No, I won't say, like, super colorful, but, like, it was definitely, like, vibrant. And especially in comparison to how it was when you were playing on the first... in the black and white era, and even in that first world. As she's basically, coming to terms and getting over her grief. So I really dug that.
The only thing I was kind of, I don't know, I'm still kind of on the fence about it, is how they don't necessarily tell you, like, these are the 5 stages of grief, other than, like, there are achievements, or, like, hidden achievements that you can get throughout the game. Like, in the first section, you find yourself in a room like full of these statues, and there are statues like all throughout the game. Like there are these female statues, and most of them are showing like a hand being held outwards, and you kind of have to find your way into the palm of the hand. But in one section at the beginning of the game, you're in a room full of these statues, and you can go through and actually smash them. It's after you receive your first ability, which allows you to turn into a heavy block, and you do the like the Kirby
just basically the
slam
stone smash.
Yeah. If you do that throughout this room and destroy all the statues before leaving, it'll unlock the achievement for anger. The same thing with a few other achievements where it will actually tell you which stage of grief that you're in. But yeah, it's kind of like a marker for each of the abilities that you unlock as well, which stage of grief that you're in. Because like the whole time, I don't know, it's like a really good analogy. Like the first stage being a denial, like you're in the desert, and it's like you become a block, so you're basically holding yourself back. It's, I don't know, I think it's very clever, the analogies that they try to portray in the game.
You want to go ahead and talk about the other ones too, the other abilities you get?
Sure. So let me see. The first one is where you turn into the block. Trying to think. Is the second one the double jump?
Yep.
So you get that, and you're able to reach higher. The third ability is where you can jump and use. They're like little birds or maybe flower petals. I couldn't really tell. But each one kind of like gives you a boost. Or actually, did I skip one? Did I skip
I thought
the
it was swimming.
The swimming one, yeah. Or you can basically dive underwater, and you can actually, I guess, boost yourself underwater as well, and to boost yourself out of the water. And then you get that along with the next one, which is the one with the flower petals or the birds. I think they're flower petals because they are in the vases.
I thought they were. I read them. I mean, not that you're wrong, but I read them as butterflies or flower petals.
Yeah, it could be butterflies too. And there are red ones, and then later on in the game there are some yellow ones that boost you even higher. But the red ones kind of boost you up, a moderate amount. Let me see. And then the last one that you get is the ability to sing. Throughout the entire game, I don't think we mentioned this, but you don't have a voice. And I guess that's a part of the stages of grief as well, because it's, kind of taking away your ability to talk about it, which is the analogy there. And so you're basically silent throughout the whole game until you get to the end, and once you regain your voice, you're able to sing, and that allows you to awaken a few things. Like there are flowers throughout the environment on the final level. Let me see what else.
It lights up the stage.
Yeah, there are a couple of mechanical things that you can awaken. Not too many though. I think maybe 2 or 3 that kind of help you traverse the level.
That one is supposed to, at least the 5 stages of grief, I have them up. So you said the first one you get. The first one is denial, which is when you're in the black and white world. And the second one is anger, which is when you're in that red world, and that's when you're like can break those those statues you were talking about as the heavy block. And then the third one is bargaining, which I don't know how that ties into.
Was that the one where you're in the forest?
Yeah. And then the fourth one is depression, and that's when you're in the swimming one. And I know that one. I would say, I guess that is the darkest or most depressing stage, because that one, it's something that I really love, because I don't know if they were the first ones to do it, but shout out to Donkey Kong Country Returns for having those sick ass silhouette stages, because I love it when any game does that. And so this game, that underwater world, it just gave me heavy vibes of the silhouette styles. A lot of the levels in this game, honestly, but the underworld one in particular gave me a lot of like silhouette Donkey Kong level vibes. That was definitely my favorite level. Just the aesthetic, and that one is when you're running away from you're descending into the darkness, the further deeper in the water you get, and that's when you come across that eel creature. It's because I keep thinking of like the Kendrick Lamar sinking into a deep depression. And then the fifth stage, which is when you get the singing ability, your voice returns, like Trevor said, is acceptance, which makes sense. So the only one I don't quite understand is the bargaining one. I don't understand how that correlates. I remember, though, one of the things...
I guess
Go ahead.
If I was going to make at least a loose comparison, like, I might as well backtrack a little bit and say that I didn't even know, like, explicitly that the game said that it was about the 5 stages of grief.
Mm-hmm.
So, some of my, I guess, interpretations could be definitely off based on that, but you're at least bargaining with the little apple guy.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah. There's like a mushroom kind of creature that you feed him an apple from the tree that he can't reach, and then he starts following you, and then later on you can go into he lives underground with other creatures that look like him, and you can go down there and he'll like gift you something for being kind to him or whatever. So I guess that's what bargaining is, I guess. Did you guys have a standout world that you enjoyed?
I would definitely say the probably like the steampunk world.
The first one?
Yeah. Just like because of the design of it. I think I like the I don't know, there are aspects of the fourth one, the depression world. There are aspects of it I liked a lot more, but just the design of the desert steampunk area, I thought was really cool with the mechanical windmills or whatever they are. As well as the little rock creatures that can inhabit the different rocks. Like there's one like environmental puzzle that you have to do where you smash up one rock that a little creature is hiding in so that it can go to another rock and move it out of your way. Even though I like the creatures in the forest world a lot more, but the rock creatures are pretty cool.
What about you, Dante?
I don't think I really had like a standout world per se. I thought the game was pretty consistent.
I liked the way levels looked. Like, I echo what you said, Trevor. I really did like the steampunk elements of the first world. And I did feel like that first world had the most, like, almost like gameplay in it. Because, like, the ability or the thing that you got, I felt like I had, like, the most amount of, like, puzzle, I would say. At least it felt like that to me.
I felt like the puzzles were pretty evenly.
Yeah, they're a little sparse, but I think they are evenly spread out. And King Zone 87 says he enjoyed the water stage.
Hell yeah, that's a good level. The water stuff was just really cool. I like I said, that one was the one where I was most like just looking at what was going on in the background and just like, so it definitely was my aesthetic, my vibe. And then I guess the other mood setting thing I would say is that no bangers, but I thought I really did enjoy the music in this game. This is like one of those times where like normally for me in these type of games, like I'm not really paying attention to the music or it's not really doing a lot for me, but like I felt like the music in this game caught me off guard in a good way, and I was like, oh, like this song has some bounce to it, or this, like I'm noticing it, and because I feel like a lot of times in Trevor games, the music is it's there.
Like I said, like especially with indie games, usually they focus their budget or their talents on one specific thing. And so,
wait! No, you're not gonna disrespect the soundtrack in this game.
We're not.
They didn't put budget.
Oh, no.
He's like talking about like it's low budget though.
No, I'm saying with indie games, they focus their budget more.
Like he's trying to give an excuse for why the other games of his didn't have good music.
Kind of.
Was that where you're going?
Kind of.
Because it made it sound like you're going to say, like, oh, they put all of it into the art and kind of like...
Oh, no, not at all.
Okay. Just making sure.
No,
I was about to say, like, the way the music crescendos in certain scenes in this game
it's very
is
orchestral.
Incredible. Yes. Yeah, actually, this is like right up Dante's alley as far as like this type of music too. I feel like in the games he likes, because this. Would you say does it remind you of any other games that you like, Dante? Because I have a game in mind, but I wasn't sure because you know it way better than I do.
There are some. I don't know why I thought there were some parallels to Sayonara Wild Hearts. It wasn't like. This music obviously isn't pop, but just the way the music was like a very focal part almost as much as the art, maybe even more in a lot of cases. Like, the scene that I keep thinking about is there's a scene where this bird is kind of like harassing you and you have to turn into a block. You have to use your like heavy form or whatever to get through it. And I just very specifically remember the music there, just like, it would get very loud when the bird was like trying to blow you over, and then there would be a calm right afterwards. After I guess he stopped blowing, the coast was clear, you could move forward just easily. And the game does a really good job in its design, using the music to, I guess, speak to the player and say, hey, here's the time to move, here's the time to do something, here's something of significance or importance. So there's having a soundtrack, and then there's also audio design. This game has both of those.
Yeah. I was going to say the game I was thinking of, and I guess you weren't here when we played it, was Celeste in a sense, where like I feel like Celeste had really good like moments where music was soaring, or like music was matching the action that was going on the screen as you're climbing the mountain. Like, I feel like the music kind of did something to give some pep, put some pep in your
step. Literally, it pushed you over in Celeste in a lot of ways, where it was just
yeah.
And that was part of your climb.
And I would feel like personally, like the Celeste music I would listen to on its own outside of this, playing the game, but I felt like with this thing I'd have to experience them together. Like, I think the music itself is good enough to listen on its own, but like I want the two things together. Like, it would be more satisfying.
Very much reminds me of Journey, where
yes,
like, it might not be for everybody, but I feel like people should at least respect it, even if they don't like it. It was kind of like not to bring up Giant Bomb again, but like,
never heard of him.
The Journey, it was a very coveted or contested music nomination choice where people were like, I can't believe you guys didn't do this. And they're like, well, it's just really not our type of music, even though like Patrick, one of the people on the podcast at times, like, you guys are idiots. And
yeah.
He was 100% right.
Yeah, it's like people can say like, I can respect it even though it's not for me. And they just didn't respect it.
And continue not to respect those types of games every year. But I digress.
Dante, would you say it's similar to Ori? The music?
Yeah, I think Ori's a pretty fair comparison. Like, I think Ori's a little bit more on like the epic side of things than this. This is more of a subdued, melancholy type of vibe,
which I think matches. There.
Yeah. But I think that's a fair comparison. Like, I think they did a very good job of tying the art to the music, and the game would not have hit quite as hard either way if they weren't, like, as cohesive as they were.
Yeah.
So Dante mentioned earlier that you run into a bird creature. I think it's not until maybe halfway through the game that you run into your first antagonist, or I guess, like, more tangible antagonist, I should say.
You're referring to the eel?
Yeah, the eel.
Mm-hmm.
Or actually,
bird came before eel.
Yeah.
Because eel's not until water, right?
Yeah.
I thought you do the eel. I thought it was the eel first, then the bird. Am I wrong?
I can't remember now.
You run into the bird a couple times, so it goes bird, eel, bird.
Eel, bird?
Bird. Yeah, I think so. But you you meet the eel, or I'm sorry, you meet the bird not too long after you get that like boost ability from the flowers.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. So I honestly don't even remember like making that note when I played it originally. It came to me like while I was playing it in my second playthrough, like, oh, I forgot there was an actual antagonist in the game, or actual like somewhat bosses.
Enemy.
Yeah, there you go. We could say enemy.
Yeah, it's like not in the traditional way of like you're attacking it. You're just trying to get past it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, which again ties into the grief, I guess you could say, motif that they have going.
I was gonna ask, what do you guys think the bird was?
Honestly, no idea. Like, I have. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, my initial read at least was like, I know I wasn't on the pod when Celeste happened, but like the same way Celeste's shadow, I think doesn't she manifest in a couple different ways before she's actually in like her shadow form? I can't remember.
Yeah.
But essentially, like, I got the impression that this was some other side of her, and now that I'm thinking about it, like, it's ironic that the first enemy you have is an enemy with a voice.
Yeah, I can see that.
Screeching at you. Is it so the first time you deal with it, you are just going up and trying to get away with it? Is it the second time when it's screeching at you and you have to sing the lights on? Is that right?
The first time you're kind of running away from it, but it's also you run away from it at some segments because it's like a vertical segment, but you're going left to right, then right to left, then left to right. And then occasionally, like, it'll start calling at you, and if you don't go into block form, it'll just knock you over. And then other scenes, you're just running from it, kind of. Mm-hmm. And then I think in the mirror world or the parallel area, you run into it again.
Yeah,
it might happen before that, but
I think that's the case, because I think it is the last thing you fight or deal with too. I think when you have your voice. So
I'm curious if the eel and I wonder if that's the same entity that can just manipulate itself into different forms, or if you're supposed to take them as separate creatures, because they're both consisting of like the same
black,
I guess, material or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's like super jarring because you're in this beautiful setting, and like I said, there is black used in the background and everything, but like this thing is just 100% black, and it's just like a mass, and it's kind of like an inky thing, and oftentimes they're trying to overtake you. So I guess it's maybe representing like, just you succumbing to your grief. And I guess it also is worth noting, I don't remember how you initially come across the bird, but like I said, with the eel, you don't run into the eel until you go super, super deep in the water, and you're in the darkest spot. So you're like kind of succumbing to it, and then it chases you up out of the water. And I'm assuming it's something similar happens with the bird, because you're going up and away from it. So you're being chased by it and not trying to get swallowed by it, I guess, or overtaken by it.
I think the bird more so just pushes you back, like you can't move forward, whereas the eel is actually like trying to eat you.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, cause like I know you can't take damage in the game, but the eel actually like trips you up or whatever, whereas the bird just you can't move forward. And then what's interesting is you actually end up using the bird to like catapult yourself forward in certain levels. Like I think that when you meet it the second time, which is, I guess, like an analogy with learning to, I don't know,
overcome.
Yeah, I don't want it to sound too cliche, but that's kind of what it seems like. Is like you're using this this disadvantage to be your, where you let your haters be your motivators. But
so
I really liked the animation, like when you destroy both of those creatures. Like, because with the bird, that's when you have to ring the bell.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, seeing, like, every time you hit the bell or disrupt the bird, like, you can see its form kind of, like, fall apart or disperse.
Dissipate.
Yeah. And same thing with the eel. Like, that's probably my favorite moment in the game. Like, it almost, like, where the eel is chasing you. And they make it seem so suspenseful, like, and because it doesn't allow you to boost yourself, like when you're swimming away from it anymore. And they make it seem like just when the eel's about to swallow you, the turtle comes bursting through, and the same thing happens with the eel's form. It kind of dissipates and gets disrupted, and yeah, that turtle.
Oh yeah, I forgot about the turtle. Did you have anything else that you wanted to call out good that you enjoyed?
I feel like you're saying that because you're gonna backtrack.
I have one.
Call out some grievances.
It's just it's not like grievances. I just have like one, maybe two grievances. I guess.
Okay, Dante, you got anything else good you wanna?
Are we going to hit on story stuff later? Because I did have one more point.
We can hit on story stuff later. I guess we can hit on it now because my grievance has to do with story stuff.
Okay. Well, yeah, let's I guess we can talk about the story a little bit.
So yeah, go
Whoever
ahead.
My thing is more about the ending. So
Gotcha. So go ahead, Trevor.
Oh, so you want me to start from the beginning?
I guess.
Sure.
I mean, just like a quick, brief synopsis.
So I think the very beginning, maybe the character Gris. You see her, and like I said, she's in like this big statue, like being held in the hands of the statue, and you start to see it crumble away, and she's falling, and that's basically the beginning of the game. And you run into the same or similar statue throughout every level, which you make your way into the hands, and that's where you get your ability. I think in some abilities there's maybe one or two where you get them after you find the collectible, like the little star. But the other abilities you get them once you reach the hands of the statue. As far as the story, that's pretty much it. There is an ending that you get once you find all of the collectibles, and we can talk about that. But I think the statue is like meant to represent somebody that you've lost, as you see it, crumbling away. And then, like towards the end of the game, the statue kind of you basically rebuild the statue.
Yeah.
And so it's showing you losing and then remembering. So
And just to give a little context too, so you're when you drop from that statue's hand, you're dropped into this black and white world, and then you're progressing forward, and then you come to a spot, and it's basically like, oh, like you need to somehow create a constellation path in order to get me forward, and then that's where the collectibles come in, where each world or each level has a specific number of collectibles. Like, say, for example, it has 7, but maybe you only need to collect 3 or 4 in order to build the constellation path to move forward. And so the collectibles are basically the things that you need to get in order to progress. I'm guessing, Trevor, you found all of them or got all of them.
actually, I didn't.
Okay.
That's probably one of my only gripes about this game, is how confusing some of the levels can be. Because usually with games, you can kind of tell when something is, like, if there's a fork in the road, you can kind of tell if one is optional and the other is story driven, or helps you progress through the story. Whereas this one, it's kind of it's not as clear. And so at some points, and I believe you can go back and choose your chapter that you want to start back with, and to pick up some of those collectibles. But like if you're trying to collect all of them throughout the game, you most likely won't get it on your first playthrough, because there's going to be times where you miss something, or and you can't go back because you are kind of walled off once you progress.
Yeah, it's like it was funny because I was listening to our Carrion episode today, and it is very much like that, where the game is kind of pushing you to go forward. And unlike, very similar to Carrion, there is a hub world, I guess you could say, where you're in this main area that branches off to all the subworlds that you have to go to. But once you complete a subworld, you can't go back to it. The only way you can go back to it is through the level select screen or something like that. Mm-hmm. And from my understanding, you are playing the version of your, like, if you beat the game and then you went back and said, oh, I want to replay the first level, you will replay the first level, but you won't have all the abilities that you got after that too.
Right.
So
that makes sense.
Yeah, so you're only playing with what you would have had up to that point. So yeah, that was one of the things that I was reading about this game too, was just that it's set up like a Metroidvania, but it doesn't necessarily work that way, because you can't go back to levels with your new abilities or anything.
Like, I kind of saw it as more linear. Like, once you get past red, yellow, like all the regions are associated with the color essentially, like that's kind of your hard out, so to speak. So it always felt linear, even though there are some like branching paths, so to speak, I guess. But I don't know, like I definitely didn't have the issue I did with Carry On, where I was just getting like lost, because at the end of the day, most of the places were trying to get you to get those constellations. So like, okay, I have to do this left path to get Constellation 1, then I have to do the right path to get Constellation 2, then I go back to the center, and then I can actually progress.
I won't say stuck, but I got lost in between the third and fourth level, because I was getting somewhere and trying to access something that I wasn't supposed to access. And I eventually figured out where I was actually supposed to go, but I was just kind of like, I'm pretty sure I can go here, and the game isn't letting me. Why is it not letting me? And but yeah, like it's not like Carry On, and like the game does a really good job of making you go forward. And I think also kind of, I don't know, like we've mentioned it 4 times, 5 times, but kind of tying back into the theme of grief, like it doesn't make any sense for them to have let you go back to replay levels from the hub world. Yeah. Because I don't think that would tie into the theme of overcoming and like the stages of grief. If you could just be like, well, going back to denial, like that doesn't make any sense.
It also inevitably would have broken the game the way it's designed.
Yeah. But what did you want to say about the ending, Dante?
Well, just kind of going back to what I was talking about with the bird being her and the eel potentially being her, like one of the last things in this game is once you get back to that statue of, I guess, yourself or whatever, it gets enveloped in that same black, substance that the bird and the eel are made of. So that was just kind of like cementing in my mind that, you've really been fighting yourself this entire time.
That checks out too, just based off of everything we had been saying. So yeah,
and from what I read about the game, the developers did want to leave it open to interpretation. So, but there is like a final scene, like I said, once you get all the collectibles, and let's see, because I haven't actually watched it.
I guess while you're looking that up, like I'll say I didn't get the achievements or whatever that explicitly said like anger, depression, all that stuff. So I didn't know it was like 1-to-1. This is what's happening. Like I knew from the very beginning, like that first scene where she's falling and stuff. I was like, okay, this is a game about depression. But my assumption was the entire game was about a essentially lady that lost her voice and kind of succumbed to depression because of that, and she was kind of fighting that and coping with it, also trying to move on after all of that. So
Yeah, I kind of was the same thing where I was thinking she was coping with depression and like or even just rejection, where like she was in the palm of seemingly somebody that she loved or something, that statue, and then she crumbled away, and then she's super sad about it. So I was thinking like maybe this was, honestly, I was thinking it was like a relationship thing, like she had like some type of dependence on this person, and she was getting rejected and just trying to become okay with being alone and being by herself, was like my initial read on this game.
So I'm watching it now, and like I see the parallels with like some of the symbolism throughout the game, like the statue. Well, I guess you'd have to watch it. It's so that I'm just not explaining it scene for scene, but it doesn't give you much more about the story than what you've played through. It just kind of shows like the statue is most likely an actual person, maybe a mother figure or somebody. And then the outstretched hand is holding like one of the stars from the constellation and gives it to Gris, and which is kind of the same as her getting the abilities throughout the game. Like whenever you reach the palm of the hand in the statues, but I think it's it still leaves it open to interpretation.
So we can talk about the other stuff now.
What you got?
I think the game is good. I enjoyed playing it, but I just don't think this game was successful at. I don't know. Like I would not have known about the depression and grief stuff unless I read into it, honestly. And I don't know if that's me being dense. So I was wondering if you guys were like picking that stuff up also, because it's kind of cool to be like on the back end, be like I read all this stuff or whatever, and I figured out this stuff. But I just felt like compared to some of the other games that me and you have played, Trevor, like What Remains of Edith Finch, and I would even say like Papa Yo, and I just feel like those games were Celeste. They were just better at discussing and talking about the subject matter, I felt like, than this game was.
And that's why I said earlier I was on the fence about how subtle they make it by only mentioning the stages of grief in the hidden achievements.
I think the stages of grief is like, I would say up to interpretation because it's obviously in the achievements. But I really didn't think the game was that subtle at all, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, I was going to say, whenever I see something in a game like that refers to either falling or a lot of darkness, I mean, you can look at games like Sea of Solitude. Whenever I see like that much darkness, I immediately think, yeah, this game is probably focusing on depression or some type of subject matter along those lines.
Just the fact that it was named Gris, which is gray, which is like this middle ground between light and darkness, I went in kind of like knowing I'm going to be looking for this stuff. And for me, at least, like, I very vividly remember that opening sequence where like they have her, the actual, I guess, quote unquote, human version of the character, and she has her hands crossed across her throat, I'd like to say. And it was very telling to me, like, the fact that they actually used her hands there, and then, like, they immediately go to these stick limbs for her for the rest of the game until the very end. And the fact that, I don't know, like, I picked up on that super quick where they, like, had the human version of her, and then it was also a very subtle thing because it was only for, like, a couple of frames for that one scene. But the fact that, okay, I'm the human version, but then they immediately switch over to this characterized version, which if you didn't see the hands, like, maybe you wouldn't have gotten that, you know, this is her fighting a, I guess, figurative or spiritual battle. But between that, the name, like, the falling, as many things as they have pushing against you as you try to move forward in like a very like explicit way where she's actually like struggling just to take steps. I don't know, like I would have been a little upset if they were more explicit about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm not saying they had to like spell it out, but I would have thought throughout the course of the game, like maybe like every time you reach the hands of a statue and you get an ability or something like that, it may show like a glimpse of like even like something like that secret ending, something kind of abstract like that where it's not like telling you what happened, but it's showing maybe like something in the past that led up to this point.
Yeah, I'm dense, and I just wish there was something beside, like, I wish I could have saw the ending or whatever without having to have collected everything. So, like, I think that's cool because they still leave it open to interpretation. So I just wish there was, like, another one of those, like, where it's just like, okay, you didn't collect everything, so you don't get to see this. Maybe, though, when you beat it, you get to see this or something.
How did you interpret what we got? Because I didn't collect everything.
Oh, well, like I said, when I just was like, oh, like, I told you I thought she was in a relationship with this person. So I thought it was like her and another girl were in a relationship and she got rejected. I thought that the falling and everything, like I got the depression, I guess I could say. Like, I guess I read it as depression and not grief. But other than that, like, I feel like the game kind of played the same, no matter whether I was reading it as depression or grief. And I don't know, like...
I think that's fine, because, like, I was kind of in the same boat where, like, I thought it was more of a depression thing versus, like, the 5 stages of grief directly dealing with death. I thought, you know, she had been depressed. She'd hit this, you know, lowest low in the water area. She kind of rose out of it. She kind of sees herself, like, she sees the darkness in herself, and that's that last scene of her, like, goddess statue being infected by that darkness stuff. But it embraces her and kind of surrounds her, and I thought that was similar to Celeste, like, her accepting that darkness in her, which, I mean, it goes hand in hand with the 5 stages of grief, in a sense, where, you know, like, okay, I accept this after fighting it for so long. I realize it is part of me. It's something I can't escape. Therefore, you know, I just have to make peace with it in my own way.
Yeah, and like, I get it. Like, it was still depicted. The thing I liked about Celeste was that you could play the game, and then they had the cutscenes to kind of go hand in hand with, I guess, or to lay out the story. And I don't know, like,
Celeste leaves a lot less to, like, interpretation.
And I don't dislike the leaving things up to interpretation, but, like, I don't like I don't know why it bothers me.
How did you feel about her story? Because that was kind of... when I think of her story in this game, the way they handled the ending is kind of somewhat similar.
The thing with her story is I could get in as much as I wanted to out of that. So, like, I could put the pieces together of the story, and I could keep searching for key terms until I was okay with how the thing ended. And I felt like in this game, I don't get that. Like, I complete the game, and then it's just like, okay, well, what do you think about it? And it's just like, well, I wanted more. I wish they told me more. And it sounds like the only way you get that is to get all the collectibles, which is fine. But the thing is they still leave it open to interpretation, which I don't think is wrong or bad. But it's just like, damn, like, what is the pull then? Because if we're at the same point now, it's like, I don't know. Like, I'm definitely a collectible person, but I just, like, I don't have any desire to, like, collect these things if I'm still going to be in the same spot as, like, question in, like, what's going on. It just doesn't, it's not appealing to me. I don't know.
And the only thing they really reveal in the secret ending is kind of the fact that I think Gris is younger.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like a little girl, and
Yeah.
then of course the woman in the statue is older.
Yeah.
So you might think it's maybe her mother or something, like when she was younger. when
So,
she was a
so,
little
so
girl.
what I have up from the wiki is it says if all mementos are collected, her childhood is revealed in a secret room. It is nighttime. A child Gris is in the meadows with an older woman who we learn the statue really is. The older woman encloses a firefly between her hands and releases it to fly around child Gris. Then under the bright moon, child Gris and the older woman embrace, and that's it. And I was just like,
So,
go ahead.
no, you finish.
And I was just gonna say, like, to me, that reads as like maybe she lost her mother, or or maybe it's her innocence too, because we're saying this is like she's a child in this thing, so maybe it's just like things won't go back to the way they were, or there's like a lot of different reads on it, and
So,
yeah,
I was gonna say, like, sorry, I accidentally muted myself halfway through my thought. So I feel a little pretentious bringing this up because one, like, I honestly don't read that many books, but like, I feel like, have you ever read a short story or something a second time after you finished it the first time? Because I kind of feel like this is the same thing where, like, you say you can't get anything else, but like, if you revisited the source material with a open set of eyes and were able to recontextualize some of the stuff, that you would potentially be able to kind of come up with your own interpretation or a more clear interpretation for yourself.
I think that's fair. Yeah, that would probably be the case, but
I know like there's not explicit incentive to do that, like in the same way, like I can't even think of a good short story to analyze this to or compare it to, but like I've definitely had a lot of cases in the past, like in high school and college, where like first time I read something, I thought it was completely meaningless, and inevitably there's some type of twist or some type of revelation near the end, and then it completely recontextualizes a lot of the prior events, I suppose.
okay. Can I list my second grievance?
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I don't think I would play this game again.
You're not going to say this game has bad puzzles, because the puzzles in this game are pretty decent.
No, I'm not going to say that.
All right, you can say whatever you want then.
I played it and like I don't know, like the story didn't do enough for me to want me to draw back into it and try to get a different reading on it, I guess. Like I was just thinking of like when we played What Remains of Edith Finch, which I think also tackles like something that's like as heavy, like that game hit me in a way, and I was like, I think I would play I'll play this game like literally once a year, like just to kind of be back in this environment. It was fun to play and kind of sit with what is going on, and I just didn't feel that with this game. And I feel like that was the only, like, I think the game looks good. I think it plays well, but the thing that the game is supposed to be doing well just doesn't connect with me in a way that would make me want to play it again. And I think it's a little bit silly for me to say that because I do agree with you on the short story thing, but I like, as of right now, like I probably will play this game again at some point, but I just don't know when. Like I'm not in a rush to play it again. And I'll probably have the same issue if I don't play this before I forget what goes on, because otherwise I'm going to have like I remember like not liking this thing that much or not connecting with it, and it's not going to help with it if I play this game 3 years from now, because I'm definitely not going to really remember much about it, besides the fact that I think it looks good and the music sounds good. I think that's the issue that I've been having with this game, is that I don't think it does to me. I don't think it's as effective at talking about the stuff that I thought it was going to, in comparison to some of the other games that we played. Like, I get the open-endedness of it. I really dug that about Gora Gora, but it just, for whatever reason with this game, it doesn't sit well with me. and I don't know why.
No, I mean, I get that. I have no real intention of, returning to it.
Yeah.
That being said, like I was satisfied with how things concluded and like how, I guess, my key takeaway of what it was trying to say. So, because I can totally see, like, I wouldn't call this a replayable game in the same way. Like, I don't know, some of these like art games in general, like I don't tend to replay, like Journey, and I guess I did replay Limbo a couple times, but typically, like, I have the one and done approach with them and just kind of let that be my quote unquote experience with them, and that's kind of like how I personally like to interact with them.
And that's like not the case for me. Is like usually with these games, it's like either there's a moment, like I don't think I replayed Journey fully, but I remember, I think I played up until you get in that cave with that animal or creature. So I think I had replayed it up to that point. And I mean, obviously, I played Limbo a couple of times. I've played Celeste a couple of times, and like I said, I do intend to play What Remains of Edith Finch again this year. But like, I don't know, like I guess I didn't feel the closure that I wanted to feel with this game. I guess maybe that's what it is. I don't know. And I felt silly because you guys were like talking about all the things that, like, oh yeah, well the game is called Gray, and oh, falling represents this, and it's just like didn't catch any of that stuff, and it makes sense when you said it, but until like somebody pointed it out, didn't catch it. And I don't know, like I think maybe it's because
It's that topic doesn't, like, I don't say it doesn't apply to you, but like from what I know of you, it's not like a key thing that you really like, that specific emotion, I guess, depression and like anxiety.
Sure. I mean, but I understood it and got with it in Celeste. Like I really liked the breathing mini game that they had where you had to keep that feather, and I really enjoyed like how they talked about things and addressed things. And I guess maybe they don't want to beat you over the head in this game is the only thing I can think of. But like to me, it's kind of like, I don't know, like
I think at the same time you have to remember, like, the person who came up with the idea for this game is an artist.
Yeah.
I would say almost just, I don't know, for me, I see more raw, like, depression emotion in this game than I do in, like, a Celeste. Like, for the metaphors that happen in Celeste that deal with it, I feel like more is just derived directly from the text of her, like Madeline, explicitly saying, like, oh, I can't do this, or I feel it. Versus like the actual mountain and like that being the metaphor that it is.
It's a lot more visual representation of stuff in this game, and I think maybe that is where a little bit of I'm failing at, anyways. And I was gonna say too, what about Sayonara too? Because I feel like Sayonara also has some of the depression and whatnot, but I think
it probably does. But Sayonara is so upbeat, like it is a story about, like, literally Queen Latifah tells you it's a story about heartbreak in like the first 5 seconds or whatever. But that game is so, I don't know, it's almost like if you gave somebody with depression a baseball bat and said, hey, let's mess up all this depression right now. That's kind of what Sayonara Wild Hearts is, where it's just very flamboyant and just like hot neons and just empowerment type of stuff. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
And truth be told, that game I didn't really like. A lot of the interpretation that I got didn't come until the second playthrough of that game.
But that's why we have this podcast, so we can play it and discuss it.
Yeah. Like I said, I don't think this is a bad game or anything. It just didn't connect with me the way I wanted it to, given the subject matter and just like our record of playing games that cover like certain subject matters, I felt like this game, it didn't do as much for me as some of the other games that we played did.
Well, you want to know
I think
something?
that's fair.
What's up?
I got a bunch of games like this.
Oh, I know. I honestly, I was like 30 minutes in this game, and I was like, he got us again. Like, you know how you said, like, you could tell within 10 minutes? I was 30 minutes, maybe even 45 minutes into this game. I was like, I do not want to play this game. And I will admit that my enjoyment of this game peaked up when I got the ability, and like I was like, okay, like these puzzles and like this thing, but I was like, I'm literally running around. I can't. Can I jump? No, I can't. Okay, like I don't want to play this. Like,
I mean, sometimes you're just attached to the earth in a way that you just can't move.
I mean, sure.
Like,
But
you put that emotional blanket that's super weighted over yourself, and you're just like, man, I'm just dragging my feet.
Yeah.
Just left, right, like I'm a block.
Yeah. It did pick up. Like I said, the game always looked good, but I just was kind of like, I don't want to play this because it's not doing anything for me. And like I said, once you got to that first world with the red and you got the heavy ability, then I was like, okay, like this is picking up. But this was definitely one of those games where if you would have asked me within the first 30 minutes to an hour, I'd have been like, I'm good.
Yeah, I guess what I'll say as far as like my enjoyment is I definitely would not have enjoyed this game as much as I did if the puzzles were weak, in the same way that I saw a couple other games that we played where the puzzles were just kind of like there for the sake of being an obstacle rather than actually trying to engage the player.
Papayo.
That's one of them.
Yeah. Siblings.
Huh, yeah.
Okay, well, those were my only two things.
Did we play Max the Curse of Brotherhood?
No, we didn't.
What game are you talking?
Heard that guy has a new game out that's pretty good.
You guys got anything else?
There is a Gris skin in Fall Guys.
What?
Do you still play Fall Guys?
I haven't played it since like season 2, the very beginning of season 2, I think.
What season are they on now?
Holy crap, there is. Wow.
I hate that.
I thought he was going to say Fortnite, and I was going to... I don't know if I would be madder.
Yeah, I'd be madder if it was in Fortnite.
But what about Apex?
I think it's more so just because it was published by Devolver.
Sure.
Well, Epic just got... Did Epic get Devolver, or did they just get Fall Guys? Do you know?
No idea.
Mediatonic.
Dang.
Okay, so that's
4,
the
Trevor.
developer, I guess.
Yeah, I missed all of season 3.
Do you guys have anything else?
I think that's it for me. I'm glad I was able to get you guys to play this game. Because like I said, I've got a bunch of these.
We're well aware.
that I'm not able to get on the the normal episodes. So slowly but surely.
You never get me because I've at least heard of all the games, and like typically speaking, like there's a couple like that Rava game that I never heard about or whatever, but for the most part, I at least recognize the names of what's on your list. So you never truly catch me off guard.
He doesn't catch me off
But-
guard. I mean, like I look up all the games and everything, and like I think he's trying to make Child of Light his new Azura's Wrath, but I don't know if it's going to happen, big dog. It's been on his list like 4 times, and I'm just
Listen.
like, I'm not voting for it. So
Listen, if we truly want to try to like touch on most genres of video games, we're not going to find too many RPGs that are less than 16 hours.
first of all, if you wanted to play an RPG, all you got to do is ask. We can just play Costume Quest. There you go. We can play Costume
Second of
Quest
all-
1 and 2.
I put Super Mario RPG on a list, and it didn't get voted for it. I'm super
I voted for
salty
it.
about
I
that.
voted for it.
Okay, it got one vote. That was.
So don't tell me. If you want to play an RPG, there's been plenty on the list. All right, Trevor. Let's first. Great game, great experience.
It's a great game, great experience.
Dante, great game, great experience.
I'd say so.
Marcus, great game, great experience.
It's a good game. I had a okay experience. I mean, I think
It sounded like you liked more things than you disliked.
Yeah. I really, really, really like the art. The way the game looked. I did enjoy the music. Gameplay was pretty good. I think like I said, I think it fell short for me on just like the experience. I guess I don't know the story. So it hit on it controlled well. So there's one thing I didn't like about the game. I guess I would say, or that didn't land with me. I think I would recommend the game, but it wouldn't be like, oh, if I want to play a game about depression. I don't know if this would be the first one that I would recommend, but I definitely would recommend it because I think it is a good game and it's a game that people could play. Like in comparison to like Celeste, I feel like Celeste is a much more difficult game and doesn't necessarily cover things in the same way that this game does.
Trevor, you getting the art book for this game?
Is there an art book for this game?
Yeah, you should check it out on Amazon real quick to see if you can afford it.
Afford it? Oh, God.
You said Amazon?
Yeah, I just typed in Gris art book and that was the first result.
$300.
Granted, I think it started retail at $50. It just happened to sell out like everything.
Did it have like a limited run or something?
It looks like it. It looks like the art book was $60 on some website. So this is probably somebody reselling. Damn resellers.
First shoes, now art books.
Basically. It's ruining everything.
Are everything shoes is the question.
Dang, even on eBay. Looking at $400.
Hey, man. Oh, you want to buy from Amazon? That's fine. They only have one. What you going to do when they don't?
I know you guys don't have this advantage, but my eBay has a little banner up top saying, "Hi, your 1 cent in bucks are expiring in 21 days, so I get a $299.98 if I put it in my cart right now."
Well, I think we can wrap this episode up. We did do our next batch of games, so I guess I can announce those here. So we are finishing up the last batch this month in April with Gravity Rush, which is Trevor's game, and then the next batches of games afterwards is in May we're going to be playing No More Heroes. In June we'll be playing Sekiro Shadows Die Twice. In July we'll be playing Hyper Light Drifter and Raji and Ancient Story. Is Ancient Story
Ancient Epic?
Ancient Epic. And then in August we're playing Beautiful Joe. I'm so hype. That game has literally been on my list since we started this thing. I already started trying to bid on it in eBay. I'm not successful yet, but I'm going to see if I can get a copy for under $25. Yeah, so do you guys have anything left to say about Gris? Anything? Okay. Where can people find you at, Trevor?
You can find me on the internet at Lyric Unsung.
Streaming?
I may try to stream Gravity Rush. It'll be my first time playing it, so it's on PS4, so that'll be an easy thing to stream.
I started that this weekend. I'm glad I didn't say anything yet, because I assumed you'd already played it.
Nope.
Okay. What about you, Dante? Where can people find you at?
People can find me at twitch.tv/awakencloud. I will, if anybody's watching this live, I'll be streaming Life is Strange 2, episode 4 tonight at 10 Central Time.
Okay.
And other than that, I just play a couple other games on there.
And you can find me on Facebook and Twitter at Potato Salad. If you like tuning in to Missed Checkpoints to find out about hidden gems, cult classics, and indie games, and share us with your friends, family, and the not shitty subreddit communities you're in, comment on our Facebook page, add us on Twitter, leave us a review, preferably 5 stars on Apple Podcasts so we can appear higher on the leisure category. We enjoy doing this, even when we play Trevor Ask Trevor games, you know. So you just have to hit him with a Marcus Ask Marcus game, whatever that is. Some Into the Breach, FTL style game, I guess. Can't wait.
And counter it out with a Dante game.
You said what?
Counter it out with a Dante game here.
I mean, as long as it's not a Advance Wars type game. Because I think that's in that same group.
Yeah, that's in that same group. Mega Man Battle Network, FTL, Into the Breach.
You got to be careful.
This man tried to get the same type of game on 2 back-to-back.
That wasn't me. It was Greg.
No, that was you with Mega Man and the other game that I'm not going to mention because it'll probably win at some point.
Yeah, I didn't put that on the list.
Body.
Greg did. Yeah, I didn't put that on.
You're right.
Yeah.
Oh.
Greg did.
What is that,
Greg
man?
did my dirty work for me. I've converted him. Because best believe it was on my list. Then when he put his up, then I was like, okay, somebody's doing my work for me. Okay. Yeah, I was happy with that. He didn't win, but maybe next time. But we're missed checkpoints and we're out. Peace.